Good day, everyone. That was for Chrissy, who reminded me never to half-ass the good day, everyone. So there you go. Yesterday, Spartan Pro Nicole Mericle talked about how she wants to see more women in the sport, more women on the elite side, more women in the sport in general, and she wants to put a team together to make that happen. We hopped in the line this morning to find out more about it. Let's get into it. Away we go. Let's talk about your cool climbing competition at the end of this. But first, the reason you're on is it's time to talk about the gender gap in,
Time.
in obstacle racing. I'm going to read some of what you posted yesterday on Instagram. The men's elite field is consistently larger and the competition runs deeper. By that, I mean the top men finish closer together and their placements change more often. Media time has not always been divided evenly. More sponsorships go to men. Again, this could be attributed to the fact that at any given race, more men have a likely shot at the podium spot. Is the sport of OCR less appealing or inviting to women? Do we lack the confidence male competitors seem to have to step up to the age group or elite waves? Is this just an extension of the gender gap in other sports and other aspects of life? Whatever the reason, let's change it. I think that's a great place to stop. Those are some powerful sentences that I can read. How is it to hear your own words read back to you? Isn't it trippy?
I think I did a great job.
I think you did a phenomenal job. Short, crisp sentences. That's what I'm a big fan of. So the short answer is you want to start a team sponsored by you?
Yes. So I guess, how do I intro this? So a year ago, I had this idea, but obviously COVID happened. But about a year ago, as I was navigating my own sponsor scene and talking to other friends in the elite realm, I definitely realized that there were more men who had financial sponsorships, like sponsorships that really helped them to focus on training and to get to races. And that wasn't super surprising to me. And I'm not faulting brands and races for doing that, because it made sense. Like there's probably 10 to 15 guys in terms of like the US Spartan scene that at any given race could be in the top 5 or even the top 3 and have a legitimate shot of being what?
Sorry, I was trying to make your picture bigger while you're talking to me. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. So basically, it's not a problem to like go to the organizations and be like, you're not doing something right necessarily. it's just a product of the fact that there are less women in obstacle racing. So there's less women in general. If you look at the numbers for open, age group, elite, all put together, it's about 30% women and 70% men. And then it actually gets worse as you go to age group and then to the elite wave.
Okay.
So, yeah. So basically, but I recognize that that some of my friends who are women OCR runners, they weren't getting the same support. And then especially if you go down kind of like another tier, you see that there's just not there's no encouragement of the depth of the sport. And that was kind of like what I recognized was like, yes, I understand that this athlete is not a consistent podium contender. But if we're not supporting those like, 5th through 10th place females, then how are they ever going to improve? How are they ever going to have something to shoot for? If we're not, like actively fostering the development of the women's sport. So I kind of thought, well, if no one else is going to do it, then maybe I'll do it. And so I wanted to do this last year. It didn't really work out. Races got canceled. But eventually I got to the point where it doesn't matter if there's even going to be races. There's still an opportunity to invest in the development of the women's sport. So here I am, and I've my ultimate goal is to focus on supporting a small team of women who want to compete at the highest level. They want to be on the podium. They want to beat me. and I want to support them in all ways that an athlete needs support. So financial, coaching, nutritionists, sports psychologists, mentoring. Inside Tracker has agreed to give blood testing to all the athletes. And then VJ Shoes, Honey Stinger, Darn Tough Vermont, Sir, they've all also agreed to give product to all these athletes. If there's any other sponsors out there that want to be involved, I'm happy. I'm happy to bring on more. And then hopefully free race entries as well, which I've talked to some brands about too.
Well, I want to talk. I definitely want to talk, kind of help sort of flesh this idea out or get more details about it, because I do have some more questions. But I want to talk about the gender gap. First of all, Josh and I I think we talk about it more offline because we don't want to get canceled, but we're definitely in this crazy cancel uber woke culture, right? And I want to be clear that as soon as I saw this, like, this is not that. This is a very simple platform. There's not enough women in this. Let's get more women. This is not like because there's just, what I'm talking about. There's a lot of this is like literally, I used to joke about this all the time, but it stopped happening. But this used to happen, Nicole. We would post the men finishers on Facebook, right? Mm-hmm. Hobie Call just won the race. So-and-so won second. And within 30 seconds, why haven't you posted the women yet? It's like, they're still running. Okay. Like the men's race started 15 minutes. Like, seriously, like, people are like crazy with this shit.
Yeah.
And there are things that happen that we all have biases towards, gender wise, racial wise, whatever. And there was a really good point brought up that I heard by Morgan Schultz, who went on Dave and Bethany's podcast and said, why did everybody bitch at me when I said I wanted to be invited to High Rocks, but Megiddo did it, and it was like, oh, let Megiddo race. And I was like, that's a really good point. Like, clearly, like, those two situations were treated differently, and we all have these unconscious biases that we're not sure of. And I really want to examine that. And I messaged her, and we're going to talk about it either online or offline. But I hadn't thought of it till she said that. I was like, wow, like, those two situations were handled very differently. So back to this, Jack Bauer, OCR stat guru, Jack Bauer, put together some stats, and this shocked me. He said, open right now is 67% men, 33% women, age group 75%, 74% men, and elite 74% men. But then he put total percentage of race by heat type in the US. This sort of confused me. How is elite only 6%? If it's 3-1, how is it only 6% of all the races?
That, like, the people. He's
saying overall of all things. Okay, that makes okay. He's just further breaking it down. Okay, sorry, that was confusing for a moment.
Don't confuse people.
So, I think it was more like 4-1 or 5-1 when the thing started. Like, if you look at early women's heats, no offense, but there were like 15 women in like the early elite heats, right, in the early days. Mm-hmm. So, like, sometimes maybe less, or slightly more. So. Now I lost my train of thought, Nicole. I was really on a roll there. Let's talk specific. Let's talk about specifics.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what your team wants to do.
Oh, well, we can go back actually to the fact that there's more men in the sport in general at all different levels. And I would also say that it's important to note that even kind of on the back end, I would say we have more male race directors, more male announcers, more the people like high up in Spartan, for instance, like are primarily male. And again, I'm not here to bash Spartan whatsoever. I think they've done a lot of really positive things in terms of this in the recently, but it's just kind of an observation. So basically, like, everyone like we kind of look to in the sport, even if it's like not the athletes, are predominantly male. So it actually would be good to see more women in those other roles too.
Right. Well, and I think it's good to, encourage people that want to go that route. Like maybe that's not something they've wanted to do, or maybe they've done races, but they haven't thought that that could be something for them. Because I also, again, like I'm very wary of the like cancel culture or the uber woke culture of like, if you watch, um shows now, like they go out of their way, right? Like,
Yeah.
here's the biracial couple, here's the trans actor, here's this actor. Like there's no way we're going to leave any stone unturned to make sure that everyone's covered, and I don't believe that's the solution. Like I do believe in meritocracy. You get hired on your merits, and
yeah, totally.
And people tend to go to their own spheres just by nature, right? So like you've got to just sort of go, okay, how can I try to be more inclusive?
Yeah. But even like you and Jack acknowledged it and noticed that, you know, like maybe like I could be brought in to be on the podcast with Jack that talks about, you know, the pre-race, you know, whatever's.
The,
Yeah.
the,
So
the preview shows.
the preview show. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not here to like, to, I don't know, really, I don't like beat anything to death, but I think it is interesting that there's a lot more men in the sport. I think it's interesting to kind of ponder why that is. Like I said before in my post, you know, I think there's an issue of confidence, maybe like some overconfidence on the men's side and underconfidence on the women's side, which we've seen before in something like, you know, there's men that sign up for the elite wave that get passed in the first mile by the women.
Right.
which Spartan, good on them. They recognize this too. And so they developed basically like a way that you have to qualify to get into those heats to try to eliminate that problem, which I think it was great to kind of weed out the men's field a little bit more. It maybe didn't have the most positive effect on the women's elite field, because we saw the women's elite fields actually go down when that like rule was implemented. But overall, I think it was like a positive thing.
Well, I think it's interesting to talk about when you said that a confidence issue. You know, there's the old joke that if a man and woman are about to go out, like the man, no matter what he's wearing, thinks he looks great, and the woman, it's the opposite, right? Like it's this like underlying things that we have, and like it's true. Like I'm probably really blind to like, hey, I look great. You know what I mean? Like I just like we just, you know what I mean? Like just these general like self-esteem issues, and I think those are some pretty hardcore things that that you guys need to work on, and I think that it takes something like this to do that, right? Like, you know, I immediately think of like the women's soccer team, right? And how they constantly, like, little girls look up to them and idolize them because they're like kind of the one women's team that's been held. And of course they've had their own pay issues and all that other stuff. But I just mean, as a group, they've been able to, you know, turn countless women on to like pro sports because of who they are by their example.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was one of those little girls. I looked up to Mia Hamm so much. And like, I remember when they won the world championships, and it was just like, it was a huge deal.
Right.
It was like, cause I don't think I even watched any other women's professional sports, but I remember watching them specifically.
So I think the biggest question people will ask is, how is an active athlete going to do this? Because they will be your competition. So you're essentially just going to groom the next batch of athletes?
I guess in a way, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody came out and was a part of this group and then beat me this year. You know, like I realize that's like a very, like, that's like definitely a possibility. I mean, think about like when Becca came onto the scene, or like when I started racing. Like I'm looking for someone like me or Becca who can come in and make like an immediate impact. I'm also fine, like, you know, with someone who needs to be developed more, but I'm yeah, I mean, I'm basically looking for somebody to beat me.
So what is the application process going to be?
Okay, so in the next like couple days, I will send out a link, and it'll just be a simple form in which you fill out. What is it? I think there's 5 questions. I can pull it up maybe. Can I get out of this screen? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just going to be describe your athletic background, and it'll probably be an opportunity to link like athlinks or race results. Second question is, what are your goals in OCR, and what races do you plan to attend in 2021? Third question, how will this support help you? And the last one is, how will this support allow you to positively impact the sport and advocate for women in OCR? So looking for people that obviously this is going to help them. So if someone is like, oh, I actually don't need monetary support, but I would love to be a part of a team and like have guidance, then like that may actually open up like another spot for someone too. Or and then depending on like their athletic background and what their goals are, I will pick some people. I'll probably need some help to pick as well, but that's yeah.
Well,
That's
Jack can certainly help you with their stats. Although I think looking at athlinks is pretty quick, right? Like you can quickly tell.
Yeah, so easy.
But it is work. But you can tell, like, oh, well, this person consistently finishes in this place at the big races, but they can win or podium at their local or regional races, right?
Mm-hmm. And I really am looking. I'm totally open to look outside of OCR as well. So if there's someone who wants to come into the sport, I also am encouraging them to apply too, because that's how I came in. You know, I raced for like 15 years in running before even touching an obstacle.
Well, as you build this thing, that might need to be somebody's job is outreach and go to schools or go to colleges and talk about starting a club team, because those things exist. They've been existing for a few years. And I was thrilled to hear that. They're like, yeah, we just started a club team and we show up to our local Savage race every year and do it. And it's fun. And, you know, they train together, they rock climb together, whatever. I think that's, you know, just telling people what the heck we do and what we are is still a pretty big thing. How big do you see the team in its first year?
So I think I'll have a focused group of athletes. I'm thinking probably 5 or 6 athletes, but I would like to have a bigger component as well, something that would bring value to a larger group of women who aren't necessarily at that. You're like, maybe they don't even have the goal to be on the podium in elite races. But I think that there's definitely an opportunity to build more community in the women's sport and to just foster the development too at all levels.
You got your work cut out for you, Nicole.
Yeah. I think generally speaking, you know, like in general, I want to encourage the development of the women's OCR sport. And there's a couple like messages that I think need to be put out there. One is that everyone fails obstacles, and the fact that, you know, like the fear of failure should not be a deterrent to sign up for a race or to move up to age group or to move up to elite. And I think that really touches on the confidence issue that is really prevalent on the women's side. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And yeah, I think that maybe even more so because of COVID, people are kind of branching out into different things. And so I think I will see more mountain running athletes wanting to dabble in OCR and more trail or road or, you know, lifters, whatever. And that's kind of already been like the feeling that I've gotten.
How did you first find out about it? A friend just told you? Because that's usually what happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a friend told me about it, I kind of had some resistance to trying obstacle racing, because I was like so deeply ingrained in the running culture and had this mindset that that obstacle racing wasn't a real sport. I didn't think that there was serious athletes in it. I didn't think that there was like the competitive side of the sport at all. I had no idea. I went from, in like a matter of like a few months, realizing that there's like serious athletes, a competitive side of the sport, and then signing up for my first race, which I think, it's not the whole aspect of the sport. There's also the people who just want to go out and get exercise or have fun with their friends. And I think that is great as well, but it just wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I wanted something competitive, and really I was looking to do something competitive that I couldn't do anymore in running because of my injury at the time. But
so you're going to post this link where, on your Instagram, or?
Yeah, for now, everything's just going to run through my Instagram. I do have a website as well that I will probably build out a bit more for some other resources. Because again, I want this to be beneficial for more people beyond just the few athletes that are on like the elite team that I want to. Yeah.
Right. So you can have like a second tier or ambassadors or whatever. Well, we are still looking for a name, I understand, Nicole. And I think this is where, honestly, the audience can help you make suggestions, and someone will have a winner, like a real winner. And you'll be like, oh, that's it. And maybe that person gets like, a free, weekend supply of honey stinger or something.
Yeah. I'm all for that. Yeah. Somebody come up with a good name for me, because this is how bad I am at naming things. Benji was always Benji. That was his name at the shelter. And when I got him, I was like, oh, I'm definitely changing that. Right. And like, as the months went on, I had the list of names that I was thinking of. I never decided on one. So he's just Benji.
Right.
Yeah.
We once had a cat named Kitty, because we never got around to changing it.
Yeah. My stuffed animals, like my bear was named Bear. Seemed like it makes sense to me.
So Nicole needs help with a name. It doesn't have to have cool initials, but it would help, right? We always like fun initials. Mm-hmm. So
the only ones I've come up with, I kind of want to tell you.
Go ahead.
I can tell you these. Basically, so there's just been like this joke between me and my roommates. We just come up with like goofy names, essentially. So all of the names that I have so far
are inappropriate.
They're just totally ridiculous. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nicole. As I said, we will be getting into her ice climbing competition on the full podcast, which will be up soon. If you haven't found our podcast yet, we're super easy to find at Obstacle Racing Media, in any of your favorite players, or use the links below. This is also a good time for me to remind you that you can donate to the Patreon. Loving this content, enjoy it being brought to you for free on your YouTube device of choice, then you can support the Patreon. That's right. Go ahead, hit that link below. It'll tell you how you support the program. It's as little as $2 a month, or you can give a whole year free, and then it's even less than that, right? We have some different levels. You can go check those out, and you can be part of an amazing community of people who love obstacle racing just like you. Love ya, miss ya, mean it. I have got to run.